Appalachia, which is a regional program. And Grow Appalachia likes us to know how many adults attend every educational session and how many children are with you. So I'll type this in the chat, but could you please, and I've forgotten this, but could you please, in addition to your name, put in the chat how many adults and how many children are sitting in on the class today?
All right, can you guys hear me on Zoom?
Yeah, we can hear you, Rosie.
Great. All right. So in the event of getting started on time, because we have so much information to cover, I am going to go ahead and get started. I'm sure we will have some folks trickling in. But yeah, first off, welcome guys. So exciting. Yay. So I am going to check and make sure that all is good on Zoom.
Yep, all is good. I don't know.
All right,
Rosie, can you just hear me?
Emily,
or am I?
yes, I can hear you. Yeah, you're on the Bluetooth speaker. So I have my coworker Emily is facilitating on Zoom. So we have someone to kind of manage questions and things like that and hopefully flow a little bit better. But yeah, I just want to go over, this is kind of what the breakdown for today's session is going to be. We have so much information to cover. But I'm going to do a little intro of myself, of the organization that I work for, and then hear from you guys a little bit. And then we'll kind of go through some housekeeping stuff, course expectations, all these things. And then we're going to go into our main subject of today, which is preparing a garden space, and then even get into crop planting and planting a garden. So I'm going to try and have questions throughout so that it's not just like, you know, crazy, but I am going to also try and keep us on time to make sure that we are not going over. Memorial Park does close at 8, so we kind of have a timeline, but yeah. So a little bit about Build It Up. We are a organic gardening program that has been serving the East Tennessee community since 2012. It was started by my coworker Lexi, and then we actually got grant funding in 2014. And since then, we have been a partner with Grow Appalachia, who is our funders. They are out of Berea, Kentucky. They fund, I think, close to 50 sites throughout the Appalachian region. And I was just at their conference this year, and I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it's like millions of pounds of food that we've grown collectively. But this program, Build It Up, is housed in Appalachian RC&D Council, which is the nonprofit that I work for. We work in sustainable agriculture, so we do a variety of initiatives from our gardening program. We also do beginning farmer training. We do land conservation. We do produce incentive programs. We do everything. We have an ag and art exhibit coming out soon. So yeah, if you're interested, check us out online, arcd.org, and we have a lot of other really cool programs going on. Okay, staff. I am the program director for Build It Up. I have been in this position for 5 years. This is my 5th year working with ARCD. And I love my job. It's great. So I'm super stoked to see everybody here. And we have, I mentioned Emily is online. Emily, do you want to do a little intro for yourself?
I'm new back to the organization, and just happy to be here with everybody else who is online and get really excited about starting a garden back up this year. I didn't overwinter anything except 5 collard plants. So everything is bare and ready.
Perfect. And then also Ashley is also kind of assisting tonight. She's going to do a little presentation on some opportunities for you guys later in. Okay, but for now, we are going to kind of popcorn around, and I want you to tell me your name, where you're located, just the city is fine. and your favorite thing to grow or eat. So I'm gonna start. I'm Rosie. I'm in Johnson City, and my favorite thing to grow is cantaloupes. So, DJ, you want to start?
Yes. My name is Dich Ayo. I am in Johnson City and I love to grow tomatoes, okra, pepper, and watermelon.
Awesome.
I'm Kelly. I'm in Johnson City. This is my first year and I don't have a lot of experience, so we'll say strawberries.
Perfect.
I'm Terry. I live here in the city and I like to grow tomatoes and hot chili peppers and ferment them.
My name is Sarah. I'm in the gray area and I would say either tomatoes or strawberries.
I'm from Joyce, Johnson City, and I like to grow tomatoes.
I'm Ree, I'm from Telford, and I am new to this program as well, so I have grown strawberries once, yes, but I would like to grow berries.
Okay, great.
I'm Sue and I'm in Elizabethton, and I think my favorite thing to grow is peas because you can pop them and eat them as you walk through the garden.
Make it back to the kitchen.
Never.
Now we are in Stony Creek, so we passed with Bethany. And we do watermelon and peppers and cucumbers and all that good stuff.
Okay, great.
I'm Tanner. We're in Jonesboro. This is Becca. And I like to grow cabbage.
Mike DeFrost, we live in my father. Tomatoes, cabbage, everything, pepper.
I just wanna, can people that are like here scoot into the middle of it so we can make room for folks on the outside. We can also set chairs up in the middle too. All right, starting back with favorite thing is beans. Okay,
I love beans.
that's awesome. I love beans too.
Evelyn Bowden, I live in Johnson City. My favorite thing to grow is beans, tomatoes, cucumbers, and hot pepper. I like to grow everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm Sarah. I'm in Elizabethton. I like to grow raspberries and blueberries.
Great.
I'm Sandy. I live in Elizabethton and tomatoes. Not necessarily my favorite, but they grow better.
Thank you. All right, Lauren.
I'm Lauren, Johnson City, and my favorite thing to grow would be probably strawberries.
Strawberries, nice.
I'm also Lauren, and I am from Johnson City, or live in Johnson City, and I would like to grow zucchini, but I don't have experience yet.
Well, zucchini is actually very easy and you will soon have too much zucchini.
My name is Sherry. I live in Hampton, just moved here from out of state, and in Pennsylvania, I like to grow tomatoes and cucumbers. I don't know how things grow here though.
Great.
Really good. I'm Winnie, I'm in downtown Jonesboro, and my favorite thing is hot peppers and all the vegetables that I cannot find in this area, like, and big melons, Chinese cabbages, or kind of things I can't find.
Very cool.
Yeah.
We're Sarah and Jake. We live here in Johnson City, and our garden's favorite thing to grow is any squash. Our favorite thing to grow is any pepper.
Cool.
I'm Lee and live in Johnson City. And our favorite thing to grow is probably greens and cucumbers.
Nice. Her sons are like the best pet squishers ever.
My name's Erin and I'm in Jonesboro. And I haven't really grown anything yet, so I'm open to anything in all things.
Great.
I'm Zane and this is Amy. We're in Johnson City. We've been transient for a long time, so this is like our first year, like really getting to have a garden. But we cook everything fresh.
Like to hear that.
Hi, my name is Paulina. We are in Johnson City and we like to grow all kinds of tomatoes and leafy greens, carrots. And my kids love to eat like the snap peas just straight out of the garden. So any type of peas, purple green beans, those are popular at my house. And garden and herbs, all kinds of herbs.
Cool.
Stephanie, I'm in Jonesboro and I like to grow raspberries and the eggplant and zucchini because they're easy. I'm not that good yet.
Awesome. Yeah.
My name's Veronica. I'm in Gray. I like to grow medicinal herbs and I like to grow a lot of the things you like to grow, all the strange things, Asian things you can't get here.
My name's.
Oh, yeah, I'm in the same house, so I grow whatever she said.
Smart man.
My name's Julie. I live in Gray, and my favorite thing is probably spring lettuces, the different varieties.
Yeah. Great.
My name's Tobin. I live in Johnson City. And last year I grew a lot of Japanese sticky corn.
Cool. Nice job.
The sweet corn.
My name's Paul, I'm Tobin's dad, and I like to grow garlic.
Yeah. Garlic. I should have said that as one of my favorites too. So low maintenance.
Jacqueline, I'm Jacqueline. I like a lot of things, but my favorite are berries, and I'm in Johnson City.
Hello, I'm Kevin, this is Kaylee, and we like to grow peppers, and we're in Johnson City.
Cool.
I'm Keisha. I'm in Elizabethton. Cucumbers seem to be about the only thing we keep alive. My kids love them, so.
Yeah, cucumbers are abundant.
I'm Karen. We live in Jonesboro. My son with me, Jordan, and we like to grow sugar snap beans and tomatoes, but we don't have much love for tomatoes.
Great.
Yeah.
Good to know, good to know.
I'm Jessica. This is my mom, Joe. We're in Piney Flats, and we like to grow fancy winter squash.
Yeah.
I'm Anna. I'm right on the border between Elizabethton and Johnson City, and the only thing I grew well last year was cherry tomatoes.
Nice. Edith, would you like to?
I'm second year and I was growing everything, but my best thing last year was tomatoes. I had 200 pounds.
Very nice. Yes. Ashley, do you want to say anything? Hi, I'm Ashley.
Hi, I'm Ashley Cavender. I'm the program director. I have a couple of participants that are in here, but I'm a program director for 2 grants. And I live in a 300 square foot apartment, don't grow anything, but I'm an avid supporter, will buy all your produce.
And we'll talk more about buying produce later. Yeah. All right, well, awesome. And I think, yeah, Emily, did you have anybody on Zoom that wanted to pop off mute? And
I can say that over Zoom, we have 16 adults and 10 children represented, which is lovely. And do we have the time for anybody who wants to introduce themselves? A few minutes.
We can do, yeah, we can do a few minutes.
Okay, so yeah, so folks online, go ahead and anybody just go first and unmute yourself and say hi and where you're gardening and what your favorite thing to grow is.
My name is Susan Rasmussen. I am in Rogersville And my favorite thing to grow are my two. I have two. One for my bees. They love cucumbers, and one for me. I love beets.
Beets, yes, yes.
Great.
My name is Katie Olin. I'm in Jonesboro, and even though the bugs ate my green beans pretty bad, I still enjoyed growing them and freezing them for the rest of the year.
Yes.
Great. Keep it coming, Zoom friends.
My name's Liz. Sorry. My husband should be there with my three girls, but I didn't hear him introduce himself. Anyway, we're in Limestone, and there's just nothing like homegrown cucumbers and tomatoes. You just can't get them like that in the store.
It's true,
Hi.
yeah.
Hi, my name is Alacia, and my favorite thing to grow is strawberries.
Oh, yes, strawberries are so good.
This is Daddy Reyna, filling in for Sarita Reyna. We've got all three kiddos here, part of a homeschool program. So they're all here to watch and learn.
That's awesome. Thank you. All right, if there's no one else on Zoom, we're gonna continue on. All right. So you all received a binder when you walked in. If you are on Zoom and you have not gotten your binder, come to the office sometime this week and grab it. But yeah, we're gonna quickly go over what's in your binder. So the first thing that you're gonna see is a liability waiver. And we do need you to fill those out today, and then leave them with us today. So please don't walk out of the classroom without having filled that out. There is a front and a back. The back is information we need for grant reporting. So this is a grant funded program, so we do need to submit some application stuff. But it's not, your name won't be tied to any of that information. It's just general information. So yeah, that's the first. And then after that, you're gonna see some schedules. So we have our class schedule. All of our classes are gonna be the first Monday of the month from 6 to 7:30 here at the Memorial Park Community Center, as well as live streamed on Zoom. Except for July, we have garden visits in July. That's where I come out and see your lovely garden. And we also will be doing the second Monday of the month in September because of the holiday. So you also have your cooking and canning class workshop schedule. So it is required that if you're a new gardener, that you attend at least one cooking and one food preservation class. So food preservation could be canning or dehydrating or other ones. I should remember this, really. I put so much time into putting these together, but yeah, but there's a list of everything. They are all gonna take place here as well, but it's gonna be over in the arts and crafts room. Yeah, and those will be done by Rachel Dean of UT Extension. She's with Carter County Extension, and she's absolutely wonderful. I didn't put this on your workshop list because I didn't have it confirmed when I made it. We will also be having a seed saving workshop September 28th. This is optional, but I do encourage you come because we are having Chris Smith come and talk, who is a renowned, one of my heroes. No, but he's really wonderful. He works for the Utopian Seed Project, and he is an expert on all things seed saving. So if you are interested in seed saving, this is the time to come and get all your questions answered. He does a lot of regionally bred seed varieties. He does a lot of work in seed genetics and also experimenting with seeds that are grown in the Appalachian region and then testing them in the Appalachian region. So that's gonna be September 28th. I'll reach out with time and location closer to the date, but we're super excited for that. There's also a little blogging sheet that will give you instructions on your blog. So every gardening family is required to submit one blog post throughout the year. I have a sign-up sheet for you all to sign up for a date that you want to turn your blog in by. So we will send out reminder emails for when it's due and all that. But your blogging instructions have details on like what we anticipate. Generally, it's like 2 to 3 paragraphs of, you can write about whatever you want, gardening related, program related, family related, whatever, but just make sure it's related to gardening. And then we like to have you submit pictures with that. But I'm gonna pass this around, so y'all can sign up for a date, and then I will send out email reminders, when that's due. Your next section is a grow manual. So this is a invaluable tool, but it has everything from pests to look for in your garden, to beneficial insects, to there's a crop breakdown of like all the common garden crops that you would grow, planting instructions, spacing, all this stuff, all in this grow manual. There's also seed saving tips and crop rotation tips, all the things. So I really encourage you to look through that. The next section is our planting, all of the stuff that we are offering this year. So all of our crops that are offered. It's a pretty extensive list. And so, you know, peruse that. We also have a plant cheat sheet, which is good for looking for plant spacing and how many plants to plant per person, and all the things that you're gonna need when you go into garden planning to figure out what crops you want to grow in your garden and how you can best make that work. We also include a planting log. So if you want to jot down notes of everything that you're planting into the ground, which I highly recommend you do, because I guarantee you will not remember. Even though you promise yourself that you will not. I speak from experience, but, and then, you will see on the crops offered, and I'll go over this, but on the crops offered, there's little bold ones that are trial crops / varieties. This is something new that we're offering this year. And basically what this is we are trialing a bunch of regional seeds. And we want to see what's going to work best in our climate and in our microclimates here in East Tennessee. So these are not something you have to sign up for, but if you are interested in kind of perusing some specialty varieties that maybe are bred in Tennessee or North Carolina or Georgia, they're mostly like heirlooms or just specially bred varieties for this region. And the little sheet that you were given, in addition to your binder today, that wasn't included in your binder because I didn't do it before I made the binders. It details all about trial crops, some like stuff that you need to know for that, and then a little paragraph on each trial crop that we're offering, like what all about it. So look to that. If you didn't get that, you can grab it on your way out, or I can send out an email as a copy. Order forms, there are not order forms included in your binder because we send it out via Google Form. And so those will be sent out sometime probably later in March. We will have we'll have 3 main plant pickups. One will be April. It'll be probably the day after the workshop on that Tuesday. That'll be for your spring plants. May will be your summer plants, and then August will be your fall plants. So we'll send out order forms like the month before. Yeah. And then the other couple of things, we'll go over harvest totals in a second. There's also a UT vegetable garden calendar in there. That's a really great resource just for figuring out planting times and starting times and a bunch of other random tidbits. And then there's also a plain blank calendar that you are welcome to like create your own. This is when I did this. This is when I did this. This is when I did this kind of thing. So I know it's a lot. But yeah, so there's also a section in your binders that's all for harvest totals. So this is the way that we are funded for this program. We will not get renewed funding if we don't turn in harvest totals. We track harvest totals at the end of each month. So we will send out an email reminder with all the instructions, but basically we want you tracking everything you harvest from your garden. And that's not just the plants that we give you. That can be plants that you got somewhere else, you got at Lowe's, you got wherever. It can be berry bushes. It can be anything that you're growing that is edible. So not flowers, but unless you are growing nasturtiums or something like that. We have a report that we submit to Grow Appalachia every 2 months. Last year, we grew 39,000 pounds of food. And that just gives us amazing bragging rights, right? So we want to continue those bragging rights. The due dates are on the back of the harvest log instruction sheet. They'll be due either the 1st or the 3rd of the month, and it'll be detailed there. But yeah, we want you to stay on top of that. So like when you are going into your garden, even if you pick snap peas and you eat them all, can you estimate what you ate? Yeah, or your kids go out and eat something or whatever, just please estimate if you don't know. We are giving out, on your way out, you will pick up a bucket. And that bucket is equal to 1 peck. So our Grow Appalachia requires us to turn in our harvest totals in pecks. I don't know why it's pecks, but it is pecks. So a peck is equal to about 2.5 gallons. It's the volume measurement. And so those buckets back there are equal to 1 peck. So we're trying to make it easier on you all to turn in your harvest totals in pecks. If you don't have the bucket for some reason, it's also equal to a standard size plastic grocery bag is 1 peck. So we encourage you to turn in your harvest totals in pecks. You can also turn them in pounds if you want to measure them on a scale. But it makes it easier on us if we can turn in your harvest totals in pecks, so we don't have to convert everything. Yeah, so please try your best to turn these in. It really, really helps us. And if you can get them in by the deadline, so we don't have to send out lots and lots of emails begging you to send in your harvest totals or calling you, because we really don't like calling. I'm a millennial, so All right. So another thing that we're doing this year is to do some volunteering implementation. This is a program that is a massive program, and I am the only staff person on this program, and so I need help. So we are implementing some volunteering. I required this year that each family do a minimum of 1 hour of volunteer work. And it's really not that much, I promise you, and it's honestly kind of fun. Just ask Jacqueline or Edith, they volunteer all the time. But I will send out a sign-up sheet / kind of interest sheet. I don't know a lot of the dates yet, so want to make sure that I kind of know those before I send them out. But these are some of the examples of ways that you can volunteer for the program. Material distributions, when we hand out plants, we do lots of stuff with that. We'll be doing the cooking and food preservation classes. You could be a class assistant, which is like really not anything. You just hand out some paper and good to go. Any of those things. So I will send out all the opportunities for that, and then have y'all sign up for what you're interested in doing. Okay, Ashley. So I'm gonna have Ashley talk about this opportunity for folks that may be interested in selling some of what they grow. If they have excess, or if they want to up your thing.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Sorry, I was posting on social media for this class. It's super exciting to be here. It feels like spring, and especially seeing everyone here is super exciting that spring is coming. So I've been with ARC&D since November, and I run the Appalachian Pharmacy Prescription Program. What that means is I have 160 participants that are eligible for produce, whether they're on SNAP, EBT, eligible for Medicaid or Medicare, and they come and get $45 a month in produce prescription vouchers. And then we have some accompanying education classes with them and everything. So I found that they prefer a one-stop shop kind of scenario. We've had a lot of good success at Food City for our distribution. So I'm toying with the idea of having a pop-up farmers market on Wednesdays at the Langston Center. And I would love to have some program synergy and see if any of you are interested in coming to that pop-up market specifically for these participants. I think it'd be a small farmer's market vibe. We'd have music, it'd be a fun time. So if any of you are interested, I'm gonna pass around a sign up sheet and I'll be in touch with you. Again, small market, it's 160 participants. There's really actually no money exchange. It's monopoly money, unless they want to buy more. So maybe be prepared for that. But if market, garden to market is something that you're looking at down the line, this is a good opportunity for you to kind of get your feet wet. And then I'd also have maybe 2 to 3 veteran farmers there as well. So you can have some synergy with that and learn from them. So again, I'll start passing this around, no pressure. I know, you know, if it's your first year, you've never done it before, again, no big deal. It's just an idea that I thought of and I think it could be really fun. Yeah, I think that's it. If anyone has any questions, just, yeah, let me know.
Would we bring produce that we're growing? or-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like you grow it, you figure out kind of, again, based on the classes that we're providing, you figure out how you want to bag it, you know, how your yields are. It's just an experimental process and it's not the huge burden of going to like the Johnson City market or the Jonesboro market and, you know, there's not going to be any booth fees and we'll mail you a check, you know, at the end of the month and all of that. So it's a way to make some money too.
We can collaborate with each other, like if.
Yeah.
This is really good at growing one thing and others.
Yeah.
Yeah, with each other.
And again, I'm still toying with it. So yeah, if it's, I don't know. It depends. I don't know where everyone's head's at. It's like, if you're thinking about growing a whole lot of stuff, then you could have your own booth. But if we just want like a build it up booth, and it's just once a month, on a Wednesday for a few hours. So if we want just one build it up booth and you guys all kind of come together to do it, or if you want like your separate booths, we can do that. But I mean, again, I'm happy to talk with whoever signs up. I'll reach out in a separate email and we'll kind of troubleshoot what you all want to see and what I can do to support that. But again, I want it to be a collaborative process because it's just an idea that I had. But I think it could be really cool, especially for you all just getting your feet wet with all of this. So, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, super exciting opportunity there. All right, before we get started into the main topic of the night, does anybody have any questions about binder things or anything I've talked about so far? Great. Let me just check. All right, yeah, and we can send it out on online as well so that folks on Zoom can sign up if they're interested. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started on planting a garden, which is super fun. Oh, yeah. Okay, so first off, gardening is an exercise in failure. You are going to fail. I hate to be that person, but it's, or your crops are going to fail, or your, you know, pets are going to take over your garden or something. Even if you do all the prevention in the world, something will go wrong and that's okay. I've been gardening for, I grew up gardening, but, on my own about how long I've had this job. And, you know, some things just, I'm just like, why did the broccoli not grow? I don't know, you know? So it's totally okay. I would, you know, make sure you're embracing these opportunities. Make sure you're taking notes. Like if things are going wrong, take note of it so that you can kind of help yourself the next year that you're gardening. I feel like I hear a lot of people be like, oh, you know, my nanny grew this, but I don't have a green thumb. And, you know, I think that I personally don't believe in the green thumb because I think that it comes from education and it comes from trial and error. And it comes from, you know, your granny probably did a lot of things wrong before she got it right. So, you know, believing in yourself that, you know, even if you don't do the best this year, it's probably not your fault. Actually, it almost always is not your fault unless you're intentionally going out into your garden and like stomping on your plants or something. But you know, it's sometimes it's the soil, sometimes it's pests, sometimes it's the deer, the groundhogs, you know, so just recognize that. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about in this section, site selection, preparing for tilling, preparing garden beds, all these things. Okay, so site selection. Chances are you probably don't have like the most ideal location for a garden. That's totally fine. You want to do kind of the best with what you're given. Now, if you're gardening in like complete shade, that's probably going to be a problem. But for the most part, you can kind of work around what is ideal. You want it to be relatively flat. Receives at least 8 hours of sunlight. So morning sunlight is going to be better than afternoon sunlight, but you know, work with what you have. You want it to be near to a water source. There is nothing worse than carrying a bucket of water or putting like 4 hoses together to try and get water to your gardening area. You really want to be close. We had a gardener one year that put their garden like on top of a hill away from their house. And I was just like, how are you gonna get water up there? Like, and that is something that is a lot of work to do if you don't have it near your gardening locale. Like in there, 400 gallons of water a week for a 25 by 25 garden. It's a lot of buckets of water. So make sure that you are close. If anybody does not have the money to purchase a hose and they need a hose, reach out to me. We have resources that we can get you that for free. So just reach out to me if you are in need of a hose. You want to make sure that the shovel goes down at least a foot before hitting something. This is going to make sure that the soil is soft enough to till or to get your plants to grow. The roots are going to need to expand into the soil. So making sure that it's not hard as a rock is good. Moss indicates shade. So if you have moss in your area, it's not going to be a good growing space. It's going to be acidic soil, and you're not going to have good drainage. And then this is something now, like the leaves are not leafed out on the trees. So make sure that come summer when the trees leaf out, that your garden spot is not going to be in shade. There are some like apps online, and I'll send this in the follow-up, but like there is some apps or online resources where you can check where your property lies, like in location to the sun, and where it will go in the winter and where it will go in the summer. But yeah, just make sure that's good. You also want to make sure it's not in a flood zone. This could be obviously bad for a variety of reasons. But if you see places in your yard after a heavy rain that's full of water, it's not going to be a good place to plant your garden. It will wash away your crops. It'll wash out the soil. And then also make sure that you're not over your septic drain field. If you are, you may have to like, if you ever have anything happen where you need to like drain or anything like that, then they might have to come in and destroy your garden, which is very sad. Okay, same with the shade line. You don't want to place it near trees. Not only does the shade line reach out, but the roots reach out really far. They can reach to the end of the branches, if not farther out. And so that's going to be hard for tilling, going to be hard for your plants to grow, to find space to grow into the ground. And they also take up a lot of nutrients. So ideally you're wanting to put those nutrients into your vegetable crops and not the tree next door. Walnuts produce a toxin, and it will kill or sweat your plants. So tomatoes and peppers, things like that are very susceptible. My last place that I was living had massive walnut trees, and I just like couldn't grow anything. Now squash sometimes is like an okay crop to grow near walnut trees. It's a little bit more hardy, but definitely things that are really popular for folks, tomatoes and peppers are very susceptible and they won't be successful. Okay, so how many people in here are gonna need tilling? You wanna raise your hand? All right, great. So for tilling, we do have tilling. We offer tilling for free in this program, and we will have someone come out and till. So I will be sending out a tilling request form after this class in the follow-up email. I feel like I'm saying that a lot in the follow-up email. I'll be sending this out. So make sure you read that. And it'll basically, you'll put the size of your garden, and where you were located, and then our guy will reach out to you with some potential dates and stuff. I won't personally be in charge of that like planning process. He will reach out to you directly. So he'll probably text you or email you. And it's actually, his name's Buddy. He's my coworker Lexi's husband. So he's great. But in order to help us out with that, if you're gonna be needing tilling, I would go ahead and if your grass has started growing at all, or if it hasn't, but cut it really short. Because that makes it easier for the tiller to till up. And then also smother your grass with like dark tarps that don't let sunlight in. So it could be cardboard or, any type of tarps that you have. It doesn't have to be like specifically garden tarps. And that's gonna help just kind of start killing off that stuff. I'm not exactly sure when we'll be starting tilling, but it will be sometime in the next couple weeks, I want to say. I think our tiller is going through some maintenance right now, but it should be up and running. And then if you want to add compost or like a manure to the spot before you till, you can go ahead and put that on like right before we come and till, and we can till it in to your soil. I will say, so we source compost from Joe Hoffman's Composting, which is in Johnson City. And then another one is Superior Mulch in Bluntville. Both have really great compost mixes. The Superior Mulch is called the Moo Poo, and it's trademarked. So, but it's a really great one. I use the Moo Poo on my garden. And they also have a topsoil compost mix in Bluntville and at Superior Mulch. So you can do a variety of different things. And then Hoffman's is in Johnson City, and he's really great too. So those are the two that we would recommend for like local.
Can I use Comfrey compost?
Is that come in a bag like from a store?
I started it last year.
Oh, okay.
Comfrey.
I see what you're saying. Yes, yeah, you can use that, yeah. Yeah, sorry, I thought that was like a brand name, and I was like, I don't know that one. And I will say a disclaimer about that, about manure. One, if you want to make sure that you are getting it from a reputable source, because if people are feeding their animals things with pesticides, then that will be in their poop and it will kill your garden for 3 to 5 years. So don't do that. But you can ask the person that you're sourcing the manure from, see if they know the practices. If they don't, you can take a small sample and test it on like a green bean seed. And if it comes up and it's like shriveled and dead and looking, then that's a sign that there's pesticides in the manure. If it comes up and it's fine, then there's probably not. So green beans, peppers, tomatoes, all super susceptible to that. You'll notice it by the leaves will curl inward. So it's almost like it's very hard to describe, but like it's just like a cone almost of inward curling. So it's definitely not a good thing, not something you want in your garden. Yeah.
Do you have the number for Superior Mulch?
I can send it out. Yeah. I can link that. I don't have it like on me, but yeah. I would also tell you to be weary of bagged compost a bit that you buy at Lowe's. We had several folks last year that bought Evergreen. I think it was maybe a topsoil mix, but also compost, and their gardens didn't grow at all. We soil tested it and it had literally no nutrients. Like there was nothing in it. Like it was just, yeah, it was awful. It was worse than the soil that you get in East Tennessee. So I highly recommend that, you invest in some good stuff. But, if you are sourcing from Lowe's or Home Depot or something like that, just double check that you're getting something reputable.
I'll just plug for Superior Mulch, that Moo Poo. We did a topsoil mix with Moo Poo, which they're really good about recommending. They'll ask you about your size. We were warned last year that potatoes don't grow very well, and we had 15 bags and they were all slinging full. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I actually also use Superior Mulch and I've had amazing results with potatoes as well. So yes, highly recommend. Little plug for them. So get a soil test done. Hopefully you all brought soil with you. If you didn't, that's okay. You can still take a soil test and bring it by the office. We are offering free soil tests this year as part of another grant. But basically, we will send them in for you and we will get results back. And it'll tell you things like organic matter content in your soil or nitrogen content or, you know, lots of things about your soil. And, you know, if you don't understand the soil test, I can go over it with you, tell you about the important stuff. But we kind of wanted to start out with everybody taking a soil test. I think there's like, often folks are like, oh, I'm in East Tennessee, it's just red clay, it's just crap soil. And you know, it's not necessarily, and everybody has different soil, even though it does look more clayey. So we want to make sure that we're starting you off right and getting you those resources to, if you do need to put nutrients into your soil, you can do that. Okay, so we want to talk about preparing garden rows. So ideally your rows are going to run east to west if your location is flat. So south, if you're on a slope, south facing slopes are good. This will help kind of like with getting the most sunlight to your garden. You can see on this is the winter sunset and the summer sunset. So, you know, if you're in this area, then you're going to be getting the most sun possible for your garden. If you're in this area, you're going to be getting a lot of shade. If you're on a slope, then your rows need to orient along the contour of the slope, just so you're not washing away all your good stuff that you're putting into your soil and your vegetables. But yeah, we'll like a little example. We'll get into a little bit more examples later, but it's best to create rows in permanent planting areas and then walking areas. So you want to, this is the picture here, but this area is going to be your planting area, and this area is your walking area. Ideally, your planting beds should be 2 to 4 feet wide, and this is so that you can still reach into the middle. If you are on either side, you want to make sure that you can reach all aspects of the bed. And then walking paths 12 to 18 inches, and that might vary depending on your accessibility to your garden or other things, but generally that's like a pretty comfortable distance. You can mark out your beds with stakes and string, make sure they're straight. You can also dig out your walking areas and pile soil on your planting areas just to give it some more space. And also if you were establishing your walking area, then you're compacting that soil that you're walking on, but you're not compacting the soil that you're planting in. If I can tell you anything, it's please never step in your planting beds, because you are compacting that soil and you want it really to be as light and fluffy as possible. We mentioned add compost if you didn't before tilling. So if you decide not to add compost before tilling, you can add it afterwards and just kind of add it on top. Maybe you can mix it in with like a broad fork or something if you're feeling fun. These are some examples of garden rows. Now, if you have a raised bed, you're in a bit of a different situation. We don't personally fund raised beds with this grant. We only do in-ground beds. So if you have raised beds or you want to build raised beds, then that will be something you have to pay for out of pocket. But for in-ground beds, this is a good example. I don't think I talk about landscape fabric in the next one, but this is landscape fabric with a planting bed, walkway, and then it really just, honestly, it looks pretty too. Like it really just makes your garden space a really nice space. So highly recommend that. If you're on a bigger scale, go ahead.
I'm wondering about disabled people like me. I can't get up and down over and over again.
Yeah.
Is there a way that we could plant our rows where it's like something shorter and medium and then taller so we can just stay in one spot?
Like yeah, you could.
So we can like reach.
Yeah, if
deeper
you're, If you're planting on like a slope and you wanted to do like a tiered gardening system, you could do that. It is a lot of work to build that system.
I'm just wondering if something like this, rather than kneeling down in one spot and then having to go down a few steps and to go down a few steps, if it could be deeper so that there's something shorter and then something that's a little bit taller and then something that's even taller that you can reach all of them while you're in one
You
spot.
were talking about like planting the plants.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you could do that in a way, yeah.
Would the rows need to be deeper or something like that?
You can only reach so deep.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but when you're disabled, I can reach deeper than I can get up and down.
Yeah. We'll talk about it afterwards. I'll
Okay,
get
thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
And Rosie, I think we have a question online that's related to this area, as somebody raised their hand on here.
Okay.
Whoever it was, raise your hand. Justin and your family there, did you have a question about this prep part?
No, sorry, that hand was up from before when it said raise your hand if you need tilling.
Great, okay. All right, carry on, Rosie.
Well, I will send that tilling to you. All right, so more about preparing your garden rows. So as soon as the beds are tilled, you're gonna want to make sure that you're getting that soil covered in some way. So whether that's through landscape fabric, which we will be handing out landscape fabric, or through putting like cardboard out or whatever you have. We won't be handing out enough landscape fabric probably to cover your entire garden, but you don't want to leave it bare for too long because that inspires the weeds to really get in there and grow, and we don't want weeds to grow. So if you can keep it covered, unless you're trying to like get seeds to germinate, then that's a good practice. I would also recommend like straw. You can get straw at Evergreen or someplace local. I don't know if, I think Ace Hardware bought out mine in gray, but they might still have it. So yeah, straw would be great, or leaves. If you have a bunch of leaves, you can pile them on top of your garden. Straw, cut grass. We're not quite to the cut grass stage, but soon you will have lots of cut grass. So if you want to collect that and put it on your garden, that's also a great way to do it. Okay, any questions up through now?
You mentioned about the black plastic, putting the black plastic down. How long do you need to put it down before to kill off the weeds or whatever?
Yeah.
In the soil,
So-
and do you leave, and after you, I don't know about that, and then after you till your garden, do you put the black plastic down to your plant?
Right, so for the first question, so in order to kill grass, you actually really need to put black plastic or a tarp or something down for like 1 to 2 months. So in this case, for new gardeners, when we're going out to till, we don't really expect your grass to be like completely died off, but it just like any little bit helps, and it helps to like for the grass to not grow more. But if you are gonna be like prepping your gardens for the future, you really want to start that process over the winter. Honestly, if you want to do it at the end of your fall gardening, you can tarp an area that you want to grow in for the next spring, and that'll just guarantee that everything's dead and ready. And then yes, you would want to, after you till, you would want to then cover it. I would put some compost down or whatever you're gonna like amend your soil with, and then cover it back over with the tarp or with mulch. And that'll just help keep your soil healthy. And then you can uncover it when you're ready to plant. So then you don't have a bunch of weeds already growing and things like that. Yeah.
You guys still raise gardens?
We do not till raised gardens, no. Yeah, raised beds honestly don't really need tilling. You're filling in your raised bed with soil that you're kind of creating, right? Like you're sourcing it from an already pretty reputable place, hopefully. I would recommend for raised beds, putting a thick layer of mulch on it though. Even if you're just establishing your raised bed, I would put a thick layer of straw or leaves or grass or something over it. Straw is probably the most affordable. But yeah, you just wanna keep it covered. And then we'll talk more about this later, but for raised beds, it's good to add those types of nutrients, like cut grass will add nitrogen back into your soil. And then like straw and things like that leaves will put carbon back in. So it's good to always just have organic matter being added back into your garden, whether it's in ground or in raised beds. So.
Does your grass clippings have to be dried out? It seems like I've
No.
read, no,
No.
okay, that they can, if you put it on too thick and it gets wet, it could actually hurt the process, but
No,
no.
it's fine. Yeah, grass clippings are fine. I would just make sure that you're not getting like grass clippings that have grown into weeds that have seeded, because then that will seed your garden. But if you're cutting your grass pretty regularly and it's just like, it's not weed seeds, then you're fine, yeah.
We covered the patch last fall with the tarp, so it's ready, and I was going to put the country fertilizer in it. If you're going to till it, should I put calcium nitrate down or gypsum to?
I would wait until your soil test comes back and see what you need. Yeah, I would not add anything now to your soil. I am always comfortable adding compost because you're almost always gonna need more organic matter, because as you grow throughout the year, your plants are taking nutrients out of your soil, and organic matter is just always gonna be good to put in. But things that are specific to like soil pH or things like that, you're gonna wanna wait until you get your soil test back so we can kind of figure out what you need. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Any other questions?
Lexi, Rosie, sorry, we have an online question about where cooking classes are going to be this year. I know that's for a little later topic, but
Yeah, cooking classes are gonna be at Memorial Park Community Center this year. All of them are. Yeah.
How long will the soil plant? How long does it take for the soil test to come out?
It's gonna depend on when we can send it out. So we're gonna try and send them out probably next week. And then it should be like 1 to 2 weeks. So you should have your soil test back by the end of the month. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna move on. So crop planning is super fun. Bye, Ashley. It is kind of a lot of work, but it's worth it. It helps you know how much to harvest and how much you can expect and how often you need to plant or you need to harvest, or, how long you're gonna be waiting until, your winter squash comes in, which is like the whole season. It also helps prevent disease, and issues in future years through crop rotation. So, I don't know if I go into it super a lot, but I'm gonna send out some resources for crop rotation, especially for returning gardeners that have a better handle on all things gardening. But, it's really important to also kind of plan for like how much your family's gonna eat and how much you want to harvest and, all these things. We also need to know, because we need to know how much we need to order and how much we need to consider for you all and what we need to hand out. So we are providing 50 people, but really 50 families with seeds and plants. So we want to make sure that like what you're ordering is what you're actually going to use, because we have so many folks in the program. So you crop planning and doing a garden plan is really going to help us plan as well. Yeah, it is a lot, but it does get easier. So this is what we're going to cover for crop planning. Great. These are just, I'm going to go through these section by section. So what do you want to plant? So this is something I always want to bring up, is like, what do you like to eat? If you absolutely despise broccoli, I would not plant broccoli because you're not going to eat it. And I had to learn that because I planted lettuce a few years ago, and I'm just not a big salad eater. My fiance doesn't love salad either. And I felt so guilty, but like so much of that lettuce went to the compost. Like we just were not eating it. So, plant things that you like to eat. What do you buy the most of? When you go to the grocery store, what are you buying? What are you picking up? What do you wish you could eat more of, but you can't afford to purchase? What's expensive? Especially organic, this is an organic program. Everything we hand out is organic. So like what at the grocery store is organic that you can't afford and you want to try? Do you want to try canning or freezing anything for the winter? That might involve planting more so that you can have sustenance over the winter. For me, that was cucumbers last year. I planted like 3 plants and I got like 50 pounds of cucumbers. So I was making pickles for like 4 days. So, you know, just like consider that. If you had a garden last year, what did and didn't do well? I will say something that we have tried time and time again is Brussels sprouts in this area, and they just don't pan out. We don't have a long enough growing season for them, and we're not even offering them this year because we can never get them to grow. So, you know, just think about that when you're making your garden plan. And then what new vegetables would you like to try? I don't know why, but I always thought turnips were like the grossest thing ever. I don't know if I grew up like learning that or something, but I tried turnips last year and I was like, they're actually pretty good. Like I would plant these. So, you know, think about expanding your preferences as well. So I talked about our plant cheat sheet. This was in your binder. You have a plant cheat sheet and it has lots and lots of resources for like every crop we could think of. So it can be how many plants per person to grow, how many successions to do, things like that. Successions are planting multiple times per season. If you're eating once or twice a week, you know, go with the lower range of what you might need. If you want to can or freeze something, go with a higher range. If you really, really love that vegetable, go with the higher range. I would say plant 10 to 20% more than what you think you'll need to account for disease, pests, critters, hail, random things. We have a super high disease pressure here in East Tennessee. We get a lot of rain, it's very humid, it's very warm. So, you know, we will be talking about prevention for disease, but it's probably gonna hit some of your plants, it might take them out. Pests also, groundhogs, deer, bugs, dogs, all the things. Cats that think your raised bed is a litter box. Yeah, so just plan to kind of maybe plant a bit more, but also make sure that you're not planting so much that you're going to be totally overwhelmed and you're going to quit gardening. Okay, because we want you to keep gardening. When are you going to plant it? So there are generally 3 planting times in East Tennessee. The first is March and April, which is for spring crops. This is like brassica, lettuce, spinach, peas, things like that that can handle the colder temperatures. And actually when it starts to warm up, they might start to bolt and they might not do as well. The second is late spring, early summer. So that's May, June. Those are plants that you're going to plant after the last frost day. So things like tomatoes and peppers and eggplant, a lot of summer crops. And then we have a late summer planting, August and September. So this is again, like your spring crops. We do fall gardens in this program and we provide for fall gardens. So this is a lot of your spring crops that you can then plan to plant into the fall and get another round of that. Broccoli, things like that. Yeah, so we encourage you to like plant spring, summer, fall, but we also, it's not a requirement that you have to have a fall garden or anything like that, but we do promote that. So the seeds that we hand out, we pack it ourselves, we order in bulk, and then we pack it in small seed packets, but they will all have a days to harvest. You can also check the plant cheat sheet, but that's basically from when you plant it to when you harvest. And so that days will be like an estimate on that. So you can kind of plan, you know, okay, this is going to come out, I'm going to start harvesting tomatoes in, you know, late June, July. You know, maybe I need to not plant other things, you know, whatever. So making sure that you are keeping in mind what each plant needs. So like some plants are harvested once and killed. So broccoli, cabbage, corn, lettuce, root crops, those generally you're harvesting them and then killing. Now, not necessarily with lettuce, you can harvest and it might keep growing, but it also might bolt and then it'll get like very yucky. Broccoli, generally you get one head off of it, but it might grow some little broccolini sprouts. But your main harvest is gonna be that big head. And they also take up, a lot more space than say like carrots or something like that. Then some have a harvest window of 2 to 4 weeks. So like bush beans, peas, cucumbers, summer squash, they can actually be planted several times throughout the year. So, if I planted bush beans, you're harvesting for 2 to 4 weeks, but that means that you could plant them every 2 to 4 weeks in the summer and then be harvesting them consistently in, July, August, so that you're not just getting one and done. And there's a succession column on your plant cheat sheet that will tell you how many successions you could probably get away with planting. Yeah, we even tell, like, when we come out to garden visits in July, a lot of times people are like, oh, my garden's kind of dead. Like, I don't know if I could get away with planting more summer crops. And honestly, you could probably plant another round of summer squash, or bush beans that are kind of fast growers. But you want to make sure that if you're planting fall crops, that they'll be out. If you want to plant fall crops, that you have space for your fall crops, or that you maybe don't do that second or third round of summer squash. And then some things are continuously harvested up until frost, like peppers, tomatoes, pole beans, kale, chard, lots of things. And so a lot of the tomatoes that we give out are indeterminate, so they will actually grow high until frost kills them off. And so you could be harvesting tomatoes in October and be like, oh, you're rolling your eyes. Yes. Yes, we are familiar with the, oh my gosh, I have so many tomatoes, I'm gonna die phase. Because you get that first tomato and you're like, oh yes, tomatoes. And then by August, you're like, I have 500 pounds of tomatoes. What am I gonna do with these? I actually still have tomatoes in my freezer that I was like, I'm gonna process these over the winter. Guess who didn't process them over the winter? So yeah, we talked a bit about this already, but succession sowing is how often you're going to replant that plant or that crop. Yeah, I'm probably just going to we kind of already talked about this, but yeah, if you're interested in that and you want to look up, succession, there's lots of succession growing guides online. I have a few that I like, just email me and I'll send them to you, but yeah. I highly recommend this if you're trying to get the most productivity out of your garden. But also if you're a new gardener and you're like, that seems like too much, totally fine. You can just do one round. But this is like kind of an example of like weekly lettuce production. So lettuce takes about 5 weeks to grow. So you only need to plan for space for about 5 weeks crops. So you're kind of starting over in the space after that time. Now lettuce, into summer, it gets hot, it's gonna bolt, but like even in winter, I know people that have kept their lettuce alive all throughout winter, kale, things like that too, that are a little more cold tolerant. Yeah, so you can also use harvest dates to extend successions. Some crops have varieties with very different harvest windows. So like broccoli, cabbage, corn are good examples. They have broccoli's a pretty long short harvest window, but they grow for a long time. And brassica are also very bug heavy, so just beware of that. You can choose a 60-day, 80-day, or 100-day harvest variety. I think we kind of have a mix in what we provide. A lot of things like your winter squash are going to grow like from May to like October, basically. They're very, very long. Other things are shorter. So it really just depends on the variety. And some of our trial crops that we're offering this year have different harvest days to harvest than like your average variety. And it's because it's just a very specialty thing. And so we're trying to figure out like if it's worth it, if the taste or the uniformity or whatever is worth it. So if you want like a full season, you'll want to take into account successions of every like 3 to 4 weeks and really kind of create that crop plan. I think brought, yeah, I brought graph paper. It's in the back. But if you guys are interested in drawing your garden plan, I have graph paper that you can take with you. And I personally prefer to draw my garden plan because I'm old school like that, but you could also use Excel or whatever. Another thing you can find on your plant cheat sheet is how much space does it need? So squash is a very big plant. It looks small when it starts, but it's gonna probably grow to like this big. So it generally needs 3 feet between plants because it can sprawl quite a bit. Tomatoes need 1.5 feet between plants if you're trellising. If you're letting them sprawl, which I highly recommend not doing, you would need more. But things like carrots or radishes, you could fit 12 carrots or radishes per square foot. So considering like what you want to grow and you know what you like to eat and all those things are going to contribute to what you can actually fit in your garden. I unfortunately like a lot of things that grow very big, and so I'm always having to expand my garden space. But also don't plan for square foot gardening. This is a very common thing that a lot of people have heard of. It was invented in California and it does not work here because we do not have the type of weather they have in California. We have a lot of disease and plants don't have enough room to breathe and it just doesn't do well. They need lots of air circulation. So make sure you look into what you want to grow and what you eat and all the things, but make sure that everything also has space to grow. Okay, so this is, you can draw it by hand or use an Excel spreadsheet. There's also, I know, you know, there's garden planning like websites and things like that. I think it's easiest just to use your own resources and not pay for anything, but you could if you wanted to. I make like several renditions of my garden plan. I start one in winter with all my like fantasies of growing all the things, and then I can get into like January, February, and I make another version, and you know, so you can make several versions of a garden plan and make sure that you're like working it to fit with what is actually going to work. For complex plans, you can draw one for spring, summer, and fall, or you can just kind of like jot down like, okay, I'm going to replace this with this or whatever. And then you want to draw out your garden's dimensions to scale, because this will really help when you're looking at how much goes between each plant and how much goes between each row and, you know, total garden space needed for plants if you're to scale. It just makes the math a lot easier. And then also identify where the sun rises and sets. Make sure that your rows, the sun is like, if your rows are this way, the sun's going this way so that it's not shading a certain part of your garden. So if your rows are, say they're going this way and you have corn planted over here and the sun's coming this way, then your half of like almost all of your garden is going to be shaded from all of that good morning sun. So you want to make sure that the crops that you're planting are not going to be a problem when it comes to sunlight. So if your rows are this way, the sun's coming this way, then everything's getting equal sun and nothing is blocking the sunlight. All right, so garden mapping, just a little terminology lesson. Pathway is a space you will walk in. Bed is the space you will plant in and not walk in. Row is a line of plants. It can have multiple rows of crops per bed. And then a row foot is a 12 by 12 space. So a bed that is like 3 by 20 will contain 60 row feet. And that's something that you'll see on a lot of like gardening things. People will use these terms. So it's good to just familiarize yourself with that. And yeah, drawing to scale, always good. We talked about keeping your beds under 4 feet wide. So I feel like I've already kind of covered some of the stuff. Yeah, so you want to plan for the mature size of the plant. So So you want to make sure, even though it starts as a really itty bitty seedling and it's so cute, it's gonna get way bigger. So you want to make sure, we talked about, tomatoes needing 1.5 feet, and you have 15 feet of space. How many tomatoes can you plant?
10.
Yes. Good job. Same with zucchini. If your zucchini needs 2 by 3 and you have 2 by 10 of space, how many zucchini can you plant? And if you can fit 12 carrots per square foot and you have a 2 by 5 foot space, how many carrots can you plant? Yes. 120. Carrots are something that actually, it's kind of like a trick question because you're going to be thinning out your carrots. So you're planting quite a lot in a little space, and then you're going to be actually thinning them out, which is so hard to do. I hate pulling out the carrot plants, but if you don't pull them out, then they're not going to grow carrots. So you do have to pull them out, but all right. So we really promote trellising in this program. We give you a lot of tools to trellis. So we're going to be handing out T-posts. We're going to be handing out Hortonova netting. And those are both, and tomato twine, things like that. But trellising lets you grow crops vertically. It keeps them off the ground. It helps with airflow and prevention of disease, things like that. You guys, I'm sure, have seen the tomato cages that people sell and promote for tomatoes. Not generally a good way to grow your tomatoes. Often what happens is your tomato plant gets too heavy and it just flops over, or it grows too high and it flops over. So we actually promote a trellising method called the Florida weave, which you can see in this picture. And it uses tomato twine to basically weave in between your tomatoes as they grow, which promotes, it's only a problem if you get behind, but generally it's pretty good. There's also like lower and lean method. I've seen folks have used staking. As long as that's like a pretty solid stake, it's okay. I wouldn't recommend using like with a wooden stakes because they'll just fall over. But yeah, generally and also indeterminate are the long ones that grow to frost. Determinate tend to be more bushy. And so they're not going to grow as high. But we like indeterminate because I think we get more tomatoes out of them. But yeah, so if you are growing on a trellis, you might have room in your 4-foot wide planting beds to plant other things if you're trellising something, because it's not going to take as much ground space. So like you could plant basil alongside your tomatoes, or if you're growing something like peas or something, you could grow cucumbers, like, whatever. You can put stuff in the beds beside them. And it helps kind of with intercropping and companion planting, things like that. Even flowers are great to kind of companion plant with your vegetables. Yeah, herb edible flowers, nasturtiums are great. Love nasturtiums. Yeah, and then, pole beans are great to grow on a trellis. And I think we don't normally give out pole beans, but one of our trial crops is a lima bean pole bean. So a leafy green like lettuce or kale would be happy like with the extra nitrogen that pole bean provides. So again, getting into soil nutrition, that's kind of a common theme throughout all of these workshops is going to be soil nutrition. So do you have questions?
I think that's something that's still, like my collards and my parsley overwintered outside.
Nice.
Would I move them or do I just leave them there?
I mean, I think if you're still harvesting and they still taste good, you could just leave them there. You're also welcome to just plant anew, pull them out and plant anew, or cut them off at the base and plant anew. It's really personal preference, yeah. Yeah, but that's awesome. I've heard a lot of people say that their collards are still growing. A lot of their greens are still growing, which is awesome. Love to hear that. So if you can't fit everything you want to grow in your garden space, I would recommend if you have a few years of gardening under your belt, then yes, till up more space. If you don't, I would maybe refrain and maybe try it out for a year and make sure that you are ready for the commitment that comes along with expanding your garden bed. And then also kind of narrow down what you want to grow. Like if you just have like a massive list, maybe save some of that for the next year or save it for another time if you don't physically have the space to grow all of those things. Or if you have extra room, you can plant more, reduce your size. If you are maybe like, oh, I'm not gonna eat all of this stuff, maybe you want to sell it at the market, you know? So we have that opportunity. Also, yeah, definitely save room for your impulse buys because, you know, it's an addicting thing when you get a hold of seeds and you're like, oh, but my neighbor has seeds that she wants to share with me and I would really like to grow that. So, you know, I actually have like an impulse bed where I just am like, okay, well, I'm sure this is gonna get filled, but I don't know with what because I don't know exactly what I'm gonna get this year. And I think Lexi, my coworker, also has like a row that she just kind of delegates for whatever she's feeling that year or whatever she comes across. So yeah, keep that in mind. Also, I will say like when the seed orders, when I send the seed orders out, you'll be like, oh, I have access to all those seeds. Okay, I want some of that. So yeah. Companion planting is great. I honestly am not a super expert on companion planting. I will kind of just throw things in beds and hope it works out. And if it doesn't, then I'm like, okay, don't do that next year. But it's I think that's kind of what everybody does. Because I don't think a lot of companion planting guides that you find on the internet are super scientific based. It's kind of like what works for individuals. So I would recommend you can do research on companion planting. I mean, flowers are always going to be great, like around your garden bed or if they're not taking up too much space because they're great for pollinators and you need pollinators to pollinate your food. So, you know, that's always going to be a good thing. Diversity is good. I also think that like you can kind of toy around with like what your garden bed looks like. A lot of times you see like guys that are like, okay, like plant in straight lines and you can play with that. You can put, you know, a broccoli over here and then like have a line of this and then have a square of carrots. And then, you know, you can do it in a way that makes sense for your garden space. So again, it comes back to spacing, making sure that, you know, you're all good, but also with spacing, like a lot of times what's on the packet is maybe bigger than what you find you actually need for that crop. So it really comes from a lot of trial and error. Okay, so keep notes. What are we on time? Great. Keep notes. This is my biggest advice and honestly something that I feel like I do really good at the beginning of the year and then I get really busy and I'm like kind of forget in like July. But I do encourage you to keep notes. Things are gonna happen, things that you don't expect, even like weather, droughts or too much rain or things like that that you don't necessarily think of when you're making your garden plan. And then also mark down like when you actually planted and harvested things because a lot of times things like, you know, peas or spring crops could actually go into the ground way sooner than when we give it out. We are kind of on a grant timeline with funding wise, but you know, I know people that plant their peas like in February. So like there are lots of ways that you can make gardening work for you the way that you've learned for you. So like I don't want to say all of these presentations are like guidelines, but ultimately gardening can be done in so many different ways. And the most important thing is that you're growing food and that you have food for your family. So you can stray from what we specifically talk about and probably be fine. You can make notes about what died and when, maybe question marks about why they died and you know, who knows? That's what I do. Notes about bad weather, pests, diseases, things like that. And then you'll really appreciate it when you go to garden plant next year, because that's when you're gonna be like, okay, I don't remember anything I need to remember. So definitely notes. This is actually not my garden plan. I I wanted to upload my garden plan and then I didn't get to it. So I will send that out in the email. I personally garden in raised beds. So it's gonna be a little different than this, but this is Lexi, my coworker's garden plan. She has, I think it's like a 25 by 25 or 25 by 20 space-ish. These two are raised beds. So she's got peas and summer flowers and spinach in one bed, basil, dill, melons, and delicata, which is a winter squash. And then these are her rows. So she has it to scale as well, I believe. So 2 feet or 4 feet, yeah, 4 feet. And yeah, so this is just kind of an example plan of stuff that has worked for her. Personally, I grow in a very maybe not as conventional way, in that my garden is kind of spread out in a bunch of different locations. So I have two 4x8 beds at my house, and then 2 4x8 beds at a community garden. And then I garden on like a 10 by 20 plot at my dad's house, in some of his like extra land. But I don't want to dissuade that from or dissuade you from thinking that I don't grow a lot of food, because I do. So you can grow varying amounts of food. Like Lexi probably grows a crap ton of food here, but like you can also grow a lot of food in just one 4x8 garden bed. If you're spacing things and like really learning how to companion plant and intercrop and things like that. So you can grow a lot of food. Just baseline that. All right, questions?
Okay, so since I'm completely new to this and we don't have a garden yet, what do you recommend for a family of three?
For size, garden size?
Yeah, garden size, sorry.
I would probably recommend, just like really anybody starting out, if you can do like a 20 by 20, that's gonna be great. I think if you have like, mobility issues or anything like that, like a 10 by 10 or something might be a good size. But 20 by 20, I feel like can grow a really good amount of food. And then you also have kind of space to play around. But yeah, I would maybe say 20 by 20, yeah.
Do you offer any help? We bought a house and there were some apple trees in the front yard. I also have some peach trees that I'd like to get going. Do you offer any help with tree?
I don't personally, but I would get in contact with your extension office. You said where are you at?
In Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, and so that'd be Carter County. So Carter County Extension, they will actually come out, well, any extension really, but they will come out and do an assessment of your property and trees and fruit trees and pruning and all the stuff and give you advice. So I would reach out to Carter County Extension, and they'll be a good resource for that.
That as well.
Yeah, so any county has an extension office. So Washington County, Carter County, Sullivan County, it's all free. They're like there to help you. They also do workshops similar to us in terms of like canning, cooking, things like that, and also home gardening stuff throughout the year. So they're a really great resource. We do a soil test through them. So yeah, absolutely, extension is great. Yeah, you can just Google like Washington County Extension, and then UT Extension, yeah. And I think if you're in Washington County, yeah, so that'll be Adam Watson. He'll actually be coming to teach 2 of these classes on pest and disease control. So yeah, but he's a great resource. He's the one that you get to send your bug pictures to. I don't know anything about those, but I mean I know some bugs, but he's more the bugs. So, yeah.
So UT, this is like information. UT does seed trials through the extension office as well. If you Google UT seed trials, UT extension seed trials,
yeah,
and they sell them for like $2 a trial, and you get 2 different kinds of heirloom seeds.
Yeah. And so they do seed trials as well. Actually, the form that I've included for our seed stuff, I kind of copied from their seed trial. So, we all just share resources at this point. Yeah. Any other questions?
Downsides to tilling, or are there any myths about tilling?
There are, but we will get into that in the next class. Yes, there are downsides of tilling, but I also think that if that's what you can do, then you can do that. It's fine. My dad's tilled like every year of his garden. I keep telling him like, you should try no-till, and he's like, nah, so it's okay. But yes, we will get into that at the next session.
What are your feelings on, so I always run out of space and things inevitably go into pots. So what's your feelings on, can you grow anything in a pot versus maybe not some things?
Yeah.
Or your personal experience with that?
Yeah, container gardening can be difficult because I think that one, you need so much more water. You have to be really careful about containers, just drying up and taking all that. But I think like, if you have a big enough pot, you could probably grow, a tomato plant in there. I just don't think that you can get like and herbs are great in pots, things like that. Obviously, I wouldn't grow like squash or something because it's gonna take up way too much room and need too many nutrients that you can't fit into the pot. But yeah. I mean, I would probably prioritize your bed first and then if you need to.
Yeah.
Do it in pots, yeah.
Hi, I have a question regarding raised bed. So as you do raised bed, last year I started my raised bed. I had a very bad experience with the evergreen soil and the black cow manure that they asked me to mix with it.
Yeah.
I was thinking, is that soil usable or I should like get rid of it?
So it is usable. You can amend that soil. So I don't know if you've done a soil test. Have you done a soil test on it? No. So basically, if you do a soil test, did you submit a soil sample?
No, not yet.
Okay. So if you want a soil test, bring it in to me. But basically it'll tell you how you can amend it. Depending on your results, like it could go either way. Like it might be better to just like dig it out and start anew. But generally you can fix it with amendments. So we can take a look at that and see what might work best.
Yes, so I wanted to add more raised beds. So do you recommend any soil like that I should buy with the Hoffman composting? Like
Yeah, so he has like a vegetable garden, organic compost. I think most of his is just organic compost, so you can just call him and talk to him about what he recommends, but it's really good quality.
Do we have to make compost soil? Like or can
You can
just compost?
Yeah, you can use just compost, but I would recommend mixing it with a topsoil. Yeah.